The voice was like a shard of ice, slicing through the warm, exclusive atmosphere of the premium lounge. It was a voice dripping with condescension, a barely concealed disgust that was more insulting than an open shout. The lounge attendant, a young woman named Brittany, let her eyes travel up and down Maya's frame. Jeans, a faded college sweatshirt, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her expression was a verdict, delivered in a fraction of a second. Unworthy. "We can't have you blocking the entrance," Brittany continued, her tone now syrupy sweet with false professionalism. "We need to verify if these credentials are even legitimate. Please wait outside. This could take hours." Maya Washington stood frozen, a statue in a sea of motion. She watched as other passengers, draped in designer labels and confidence, walked freely into the Skyward Airlines Platinum Lounge. No one checked their cards under a light.
No one checked their cards under a light. No one was asked to step aside. The silence that followed was deafening. A vacuum filled only by the whisper of expensive air conditioning and the distant roar of jets on the LaGuardia tarmac.
In that moment, a billionaire CEO, the woman who owned the very ground they stood on, stood face to face with an employee who had no idea she had just made the biggest mistake of her career. Brittany, the lounge attendant, didn't know that in 24 hours she would be unemployed. In 48 hours, the entire management team of that hub would be fighting for their jobs. And in 1 week, the airline industry would be forced to look at its own ugly reflection in the mirror.
This is the story of how one woman's humiliation became a revolution. Just days earlier, Maya Washington stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office. From the 52nd floor of Skyward Airlines headquarters, the city of Atlanta sprawled below, and the planes she commanded traced silver threads across the morning sky. At 38, she was a titan, the youngest CEO in the industry, and one of only 3 black women to ever lead a major carrier. But the quarterly reports, spread across her mahogany desk, told a story that wasn't about profits or expansion. It was a story of decay, a sickness in the heart of her company. Customer satisfaction scores were plummeting, but not for the usual reasons. The complaints had a chillingly familiar tone. Staff seemed dismissive when I asked for help. Boarding felt like I was being judged before I even spoke. They acted like I didn't belong in first class, even though I've been an elite member for 6 years. Marcus Chen, her chief operating officer and trusted friend, walked in, his face grim. "The patterns are getting worse, Maya," he said, setting down her usual black coffee. He pulled up a presentation on the wall monitor. The charts painted a stark, undeniable picture. Black passengers, Latino passengers, older passengers, anyone who didn't fit a narrow, unspoken mold of premium traveler, were reporting experiences that were worlds apart from their white, younger, corporate-attired counterparts.
"It's not random," Marcus continued. "The complaints are, and clustered, LaGuardia, Reagan National, Hartsfield-Jackson, all mentioning the same thing, being made to feel unwelcome, like they were intruders." Maya's jaw tightened. She had built Skyward on a single guiding principle: everyone deserves to fly with dignity. She remembered a senior executive, old Mr. Henderson, telling her when she started that she'd never make it past middle management because she didn't have the right image for aviation. What if that attitude never really...
She murmured, more to herself than to Marcus. What if it just went underground, poisoning everything? She stood up, a decision crystallizing in her eyes. I'm going undercover. Marcus nearly choked on his coffee. Maya, you're on the cover of Forbes. You spoke at the Kennedy Center last week.
Your photo is in every break room. 2 executives, maybe. But to a gate agent in LaGuardia who sees 1,000 faces a week? To a lounge attendant who thinks premium means a certain skin color or a certain suit? To them, I'm just another black woman in an airport. This is necessary, Marcus. If there is a rot in our system, I need to see it, feel it, and cut it out myself. The transformation was shockingly simple. Tailored suits were replaced with worn jeans and a Morehouse College sweatshirt, her alma mater. Her elegant bob was pulled into a simple ponytail. Most importantly, she changed her posture. The confident stride that commanded boardrooms was replaced by the slightly hurried, weary walk of a frequent traveler. She became Maya Johnson, a mid-level consultant, a ghost in her own machine. Her first test was at her home airport in Atlanta. At the premier check-in counter, she watched the agent, Jennifer, greet a white businessman like an old friend. Mr. Patterson, Chicago again? Let me see about that upgrade for you. He was through in seconds. No ID check, no questions. Then, Maya stepped forward. Jennifer's warm smile became a professional mask. She scrutinized Maya's ID, comparing the photo to her face repeatedly. Maya Johnson, the agent said, drawing out the name as if it were suspicious. I'm actually an elite member, Maya said politely. I was hoping for an aisle seat. The agent barely glanced at Maya's phone, which clearly displayed her status. System's running slow, she said dismissively.
You'll have to step aside while I verify this manually. Maya watched, her heart sinking, as another passenger, a young white woman in yoga pants, was processed instantly. 15 minutes later, the agent called her back. No apology. No explanation. Just a boarding pass for a middle seat and a curt dismissal. The first cut was a small one, but it was deep. But it was at LaGuardia where the small cuts became a gaping wound. After observing the same pattern of differential treatment at the boarding gate, Maya approached the gleaming entrance to the Platinum Lounge, a space she had personally helped design to be a sanctuary of welcome. The attendant, Brittany, gave her a smile. That was all teeth. Can I help you?
Maya presented her platinum card and boarding pass. Instead of scanning them, Brittany held them up to the light, examining them like a detective studying counterfeit money. Brittany murmured. The printing quality on this card seems... Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. We've had issues with fake credentials. I'm sure you understand. At that exact moment, a man in golf attire strolled up. Afternoon, Brittany, he boomed. Brittany's entire being transformed. Mr. Davidson, back from Hilton Head? Of course. Let me walk you to your usual spot. She abandoned Maya completely, escorting the man into the lounge without a glance at his credentials.
20 minutes passed. Brittany returned, visibly annoyed to find Maya still waiting. Right, she sighed. About your verification. I'm going to need you to wait outside while I contact member services. We can't have you blocking the entrance." Wait outside? The words felt foreign, absurd. Yes, Brittany pointed to the uncomfortable public seating in the general terminal. "We'll call you if it checks out. It could be an hour, maybe more." Maya stared, her mind reeling. She was being asked to wait outside a lounge she owned, to be verified for a status she had created, while others waltzed in. It wasn't about a slow system. It wasn't about protocol. She was being told to wait outside because a woman who looked like her didn't fit Brittany's narrow, prejudiced idea of who belonged inside. She walked to the gate area, her hands shaking not with anger, but with the crushing weight of recognition. This was the silent, soul-crushing discrimination she had been reading about. She opened her notebook, the words etched in fire. Told to wait outside. Her final stop was Reagan National Airport. The pattern was now undeniable. But nothing prepared her for what happened at Gate 35. A commotion. A well-dressed black woman in her 50s was arguing with a gate agent named Kevin.
"I've been an elite member for 8 years, the woman said, her voice tight with controlled frustration. "My upgrade should have processed." "Ma'am," Kevin said, his tone dripping with condescension, "the system shows you're in 22F. There's nothing I can do." "But I'm number 2 on the list. I can see it on my app." Kevin waved a dismissive hand. "Sometimes the app is wrong. Now, please step aside." The woman moved away, her shoulders sagging with defeated dignity. Seconds later, a white man in a rumpled polo shirt walked up. "Hey, any chance of an upgrade?" he asked casually. Kevin's face lit up. "You know what, sir? You're in luck. I've got 2C available for you." Something inside Maya snapped. She approached the counter. "Excuse me," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I couldn't help but notice."
That woman had an upgrade request, but this gentleman just received one. Kevin turned to her, his eyes scanning her jeans and sweatshirt. "Ma'am, upgrades are handled based on various factors." "What factors?" Maya pressed. "Factors determined by management," he snapped, his professional mask slipping. "Look, lady, I don't know what you're trying to prove, but if you don't like our policies, maybe you should fly another airline." The gate area fell silent. Everyone was watching. Just as Maya was about to reveal herself, the businesswoman from earlier stepped forward. "I saw what just happened," she said, her voice ringing with newfound courage. "I've been flying this airline for 8 years, and I've watched this exact scenario play out dozens of times. You told me there were no upgrades, then gave one away." Kevin's face turned bright red. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to lower your voice, or I will call security." That was when Maya made her move. "Actually," she said, pulling out her phone, "I think security might want to hear about this." But first, she dialed a number. "Marcus, it's Maya. Conference in the Regional Operations Manager for Reagan National. Now." The phone was on speaker. "This is Marcus Chen, COO of Skyward Airlines. Who am I speaking with?" A nervous voice replied, This is Kevin Morrison, gate supervisor." The color drained from Kevin's face as a horrifying realization dawned. "Kevin," Marcus's voice was cold steel, "I have Maya Washington on the line. I believe you two have just met."
A profound silence fell over Gate 35. Every eye was on the woman in the college sweatshirt. "Maya Washington," she said, her voice calm, but carrying the weight of an empire. "COO of Skyward Airlines. And Kevin, we need to talk." The emergency meeting was held in a sterile conference room. 7 pale-faced managers sat opposite Maya, who was still in her jeans. Kevin sat at the far end, looking like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. "For 1 week," Maya began, "I have been a ghost in my own company. And what I've discovered is not a training issue. It is a cultural crisis." She opened her notebook and laid out the evidence, incident by incident, name by name. She detailed the humiliation at LaGuardia, the dismissal in Atlanta, and the blatant lie at Gate 35. She concluded with internal text messages Marcus had uncovered, where managers encouraged staff to use discretion to maintain the brand image of their premium spaces. "Kevin Morrison," she said, her eyes locking onto him, "you are terminated, effective immediately." She then suspended or fired every manager and employee implicated in the communications. She announced an immediate overhaul, automated lounge access, an end to discretionary protocols, and mandatory intensive bias training. "This company will treat every single passenger with dignity," she declared, "or you will not work for this company. Are we clear?" The next morning, Maya held a press conference, but she wasn't alone. Beside her stood Dr. Angela Reed, the businesswoman from the gate. Maya didn't just apologize to her. She had invited her to be part of the solution. Maya detailed her undercover investigation, not as a story of a CEO's triumph, but as a confession of her company's failure. Then Dr. Reed spoke. "This was never about an upgrade," she said. "It's about dignity. It's about not having to prove you belong." Maya Washington didn't just listen to a complaint. She lived it. And she is fixing it. Maya announced the Skyward Dignity Initiative, a multi-million-dollar commitment to change, overseen by a passenger advocacy board co-chaired by Dr. Reed. When a reporter called it a publicity stunt, Maya's expression hardened. "If treating human beings with respect is a publicity stunt," she said, "then our industry has a much bigger problem than I thought. This isn't PR. It's our new reality." 6 months later,
Maya stood at that same gate at Reagan National. The atmosphere was different. She watched agents of all backgrounds treating passengers of all backgrounds with patient, professional respect. She saw an airline that was finally starting to live up to its promise. She boarded her flight, settling into her first-class seat, not because of who she was, but because she had a ticket, just like everyone else, just like it should be. The journey was far from over, but as the plane lifted into the sky, Maya knew they were finally flying in the right direction.